Hi guys, happy Saturday and welcome back to my channel for another What I Eat in a Day. So I recently, last weekend, had a bit of a back injury and I've not really this week been able to do much, but I am back today. I'm feeling a little bit better and I am needing to stay active, and I've got a week, so I feel like I should use these as an opportunity to kind of motivate myself to move a little bit more and just to carry on as much as I can. But anyway, I hope you're all well. Hope you're all doing super. This morning it was a very quick breakfast for me. I wasn't that hungry, if I'm honest. My appetite has not been that great recently, but I've had a coffee and I also had a banana, so nothing to write home about on that front. But lunch is a different story. I am quite hungry now and I'm really fancying a warm corned beef sandwich, which just sounds like it's gonna hit. And for dinner tonight, very excited because I'm going to make Turkish pizza, which is basically making your own kind of pizza slash flatbread and making this really gorgeous minced parsley, caramelized onion, tomato sort of topping and just roasting it in the oven with good olive oil, and it's just so crispy and delicious. And I'm gonna have that with salad, maybe some chips, so it's gonna be a really lovely day of food. So I hope you're all excited for that. And I'm just gonna get started. This shirt, by the way, is a new find. It was sent to me very kindly from the guys over at Shein. I don't really shop at Shein, haven't really had anything from their site before, but they sent me a few pieces. This was one of them. I really like it. The quality is actually really lovely. I have it on with my misguided, gotta be careful, jeans. Very simple. These have a kind of jogging bottom cuff, which I really like about them, and then just my watches and bracelets as usual. And I've been getting a lot of questions about these bracelets. They're from Love Ruby Ross, and I just have an Essie brown nail polish on. So the outfit is very, very simple, but yeah, I hope you all enjoy it. Give it a thumbs up and let's get on with the day. Alrighty, so as I said, I'm going to have a corned beef sandwich for lunch. So this is the one that I'm using. I really like this one. In relation to point value, I can give you guys that in a moment. 3 points for half the pack, which I think is perfectly reasonable. I'm also going to be having 2 slices of this bread. Now I'm sure that, again, there will be more calorie conscious bread that you could choose. For example, Warburton's Thins, they're much kind of friendlier when it comes to point value, but actually 2 slices of this are only 4 points, which I think is perfectly reasonable. They are smaller than a traditional loaf size, but for me I find them perfect just because I'm not a mad fan of like a lot of bread. I'd rather bulk up on other things, spend my point values elsewhere. But this bread is delicious. It's super soft. It's actually quite thick as well. And all I'm going to do, I am going to warm this up. I'm also going to have 2 points worth of cheese. This is low fat Cathedral City, which I've already weighed out and I already know the point value. So all I'm going to do, and I might even, yeah, I am likely to have half a packet actually, because that only constitutes 1.5 slices. But that's actually, as you can see, quite a lot, so that's absolutely fine for me. And I'm also going to pop on my cheese, and this is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, so I know that some people might find this part quite gross. Ketchup. I love ketchup on a corned beef sandwich, especially one that's going to be heated up. You don't have to heat this up at all. I do quite like it when it melts and becomes really soft. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave for about 30 seconds just to melt that cheese and let the meat go a little bit softer. I'm also going to have a pack of quavers as well. These are 3 points. This has just softened everything ever so nicely. And I'm just going to cut it in half. And you can see that everything just infuses together. So I'm about to have my afternoon snack, but before I do, I think it would be a good idea to start on the dough for the pizza, just because it needs at least 45 minutes of proof time. So I am going to have a snack. I have half a Bounty here. Now, I am going to give you guys a point value for this because I think you guys will want it. But I think it's really important to remember, and I've said this in a previous video, that calories versus points are very, very different. For example, this is probably going to come up as about 12, 11 points, something like that. Let me just change the grammage. So this is a 57 gram bar. So a 57 gram bar, so if you just have the whole bar, I'm finding it really difficult to believe that a 57 gram bar would be 17 or WW points. Now, bearing in mind, if I was losing, I get 23 a day. If I'm maintaining, I get 29. That's ridiculous. It's a joke. Shouldn't really be allowed to discourage people from having a bit of chocolate in that way. To give you guys the calorie value of this bar, this calories is, I think, around 120 calories. Or something like that. Let me just have a little look. So this bar is 139 calories. Now, to give you some context, there are about 80 calories in a banana. So I think it's ridiculous that that's been given a 17 point value. I think it's wrong. Don't agree with it. However, I was only ever going to have half of this bar anyway. So for me, that 139 calories, 140 calories becomes 70 calories, which again is about the calories in a large banana. Do you know what I mean? If you want the chocolate, have the chocolate. Don't listen to this, is all I'm going to say. But anyway, that felt like a bit of a rant. And it was a bit ranty, because I don't think it's fair to kind of demonise food in that way. Because you wouldn't have it. You would never spend 17 points on a bounty, especially when you're 23 a day. But anyway, I'm going to have half of this. Andy had the other half. I'm going to have it with a cup of tea. But before that, I am going to get on with my dough. Okay, so to make this dough, it's really simple. So the first thing you're going to need is some strong white bread flour. So we have some of that. I think we need about 135 grams of that, but I will check. Some olive oil or extra virgin olive oil. It doesn't really matter which one you choose, but you know, you need some olive oil as well. You will also need some dry yeast that you're going to mix with about 90 grams of warm tepid water. Some caster sugar to feed the yeast. This is just going to help the yeast activate that much quicker. But again, we are going to have that proof time of around 45 minutes, and just some salt as well. So basically, this is very simple. I'm just going to weigh out all the ingredients, make a well in the centre of the flour, add the oil, that I'm pointing to the sugar, into that well, and then add the yeast and water mixture along with the salt. So yeah, very simple in a bowl, and it's a very sticky dough, so we're gonna have to work it quite a bit. Okay, so it's actually 125 grams of the flour, which I'm going to weigh out now. And this should make 2 pizzas, by the way. So we now have the flour. We're going to add to that a half teaspoon of salt. It's going to go straight in. And to our water, we're going to add 3 grams of yeast. That was a bit too much, admittedly. It kind of just came out a bit quicker than expected, but there's some here on the top, which I'm hoping I can just scoop up without getting any of the moisture. Yeah, perfect. So that yeast, just to feed it, we're going to give it about half a teaspoon, just a bit less than half a teaspoon of caster sugar. That's going to help the yeast wake up a little bit. And I'm just going to let this yeast sit for about 5 minutes, but you'll already start to see that it's started to rise to the top, and that's when you know the yeast is working. Okay, so we're going to sift through the flour to make sure it's nice and smooth, and just get that added to the mixing bowl. And then we're going to make a well in the centre, and that's what we're going to use to pop in our 1 teaspoon at this moment in time of oil. Well, we are going to need more oil for our hands because this is a very sticky dough indeed, and I actually like to give it a generous teaspoon, so it might be a tiny bit more than, but I'm perfectly happy with that. It's just going to add a ton of flavour. And now we're going to add our water and yeast. And to start with, we're just going to bring this together with the spatula. And then once it kind of forms one dough, we'll get it onto the work surface and we'll start to knead it by hand. But it's just, again, to combine the ingredients without having all that initial stickiness, and just to make sure that things distribute a little bit more evenly. But it is a very, very sticky dough, and you might say, why not add more flour? But you want to keep the ratios true to what you've started with. And if you add a ton of dough, if you add a ton of flour, which you may be inclined to do at this stage because it is very thick, you're not going to end up with the amounts that you started with. So I always use oil on the hands, oil on the surface trick. And I'm just going to grab a bit of olive oil in my hands, and also on my surface as well. So I've had my snack, the dough is proving, and now I'm going to get on with the spicy lamb mix that we're going to be putting on top of the flatbread. So this is lamb mince. This is not point friendly on WW. So if you would like, switch this out to a lean steak mince. However, I do feel like it will impact the taste. Lamb is so good for this, and you don't need much of it, to be quite honest. I have about 200 grams here between two of us, so it's 100 grams. So check your point value. If you can afford to stretch to it or use your weeklies, I would definitely recommend, because the taste does alter slightly, and because lamb is just obviously fattier, it has a lot more flavour. We also have about 10 grams worth of parsley here, 3 very specific spices. So we have some smoked paprika, very easy to get. The ones that are a little more tricky, or you might not already have, is the za'atar, which is perfect with olive oil for truffling and for flatbreads and that kind of stuff. It's great with chicken as well. And then you have baharat, which is a little bit easier to get a hold of, but this is perfect with couscous and things like that, so it adds a lot of flavour. We also have an onion that we're going to chop very fine and caramelise and cook really low and slow for about 10 minutes until it's golden. 2 nice cloves of garlic, 1 tomato that we're going to use as the base. We also have a red chilli here, some salt and pepper, and of course more olive oil. The first thing we're going to do is to prep the onion, because this is going to be the thing that we want to cook low and slow. Again, not chunky pieces, you want to dice it definitely, but you don't want it kind of really finely chopped. But I would definitely say you want to cook it low and slow, or fry it in a frying pan with some good quality olive oil until it caramelizes and becomes golden. Do not burn it, but yeah, you just want to cook these down, and that's going to infuse a lot of flavour. It may not appear it, but in real life these onions are quite golden now, so it's a great time to add the garlic, chilli and the baharat powder or seasoning. For this you're going to need, I think it's a teaspoon. I'm sorry, it's just not focusing, probably because I'm trying to do it with one hand. Yeah, you're going to need a teaspoon of this. So I'm going to pop that in with the chilli and the garlic, and then we're going to get all of this mixed together. And we're going to add half a teaspoon of the smoked paprika. And now we're going to prepare the chopped tomato, and we only need the one for both pizzas. So what we're going to do is do a cross in its bum, or its bottom, wherever you like, and then we're going to dunk it into a pan of boiling water, which is already on the hob, for about 5 minutes. I'm going to let that sit for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to take it out with a basket spoon and get it straight into some cold water, and then I should be able to peel the skin off that tomato really easily, and then pop it in the blender to blend up and make a tomato sauce. So now the tomato is blistered, we could easily remove the skin just like this. It just makes it so much easier to pop into the blender now and whiz up. If there's any real need to get the blender out, so I'm just going to mush it up in the pestle and mortar. Again, it won't take much. We're just going to get this beat down until it's a liquid. And now it's just a case of adding everything together. So we're going to start off with the mince, followed by our tomato mix that we've just made, followed by our spicy chilies, garlic, onions and spices. This smells incredible, incredible. Make sure you get every last drop of that. You don't want to waste even a single part of it. And then the final component is to add the parsley along with za'atar, which you don't need much of, just a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm going to do it by eyeball. There we go. And then I'm just going to mix this up, and then there you have your spicy lamb mixture. And honestly, it is the best thing. And you could make this into kebabs, you could spread it on some flatbread for leftovers, you could eat this balled up into meatballs with chips, you could have this with pasta and noodles. It tastes delicious with everything. It's such a fantastic fail-safe recipe. It takes a bit of time, I'm not gonna lie, like especially when you know, have to do the tomato and cook the onions down, but honestly it is worth every single second. Before I bring the dough back in from its proving, I am going to prep the worktop with a bit of flour, just because at this stage it is essential. And then we're going to knead it for a minute or two, and then we're going to roll it out and make kind of like a teardrop shape. So this is about to go into the oven for 10 to 12 minutes until it's golden brown and crispy. And whilst we wait for the pizza, I'm just going to whip up a little bit of salad, just a tomato, some cucumber, just to have on the side, because I won't need anything else with it, although Andrew might have some chips, not too sure. But the only thing you really have to factor in is the meat and the olive oil, because I would say we used, and obviously the flour, so the base, we used more than the average when it comes to olive oil, so just point accordingly. That pizza, or lamajin, however you want to pronounce it, next level, absolute next level. It was delicious, honestly. I devoured every single bit. I had it with salad, as you saw. Andrew had it with some chips, and it was just so crispy and delicious, and that lamb was amazing. Now granted, we only actually used half of the lamb mixture, so half of it has gone in the freezer for future pizzas, or again all those other ideas that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to call it a day here. Actually, I have my nightly bit of fruit, which is a peach in this case, and yeah, I hope you all enjoy it, guys. I hope you found it useful, hope you found it enjoyable to watch. I'm going to go and chow down on this. Honestly, I can just feel it. I can feel it's a good one. I'm so excited. In fact, there is nothing like that first bite of a good peach. Anyway, I hope you're all good. I'll see you in my next one. Have a great week, and talk to you.